The night market always smelled of cinnamon and smoke, but on harvest eve the fragrances were richer, the fires were brighter, and the shadows under the canvas awnings were deep enough to hide a murderer. I was supposed to be selling lantern tapers and harvest-coloured votives for Master Edric, but instead I was staring across the square at the ashes of Dawn Varland's stall. Charcoal ribs of oak joists jutted like broken teeth from a bed of grey powder. Bubbles of cooled wax clung to the stones around the wreckage, glinting in the torchlight like fallen pearls. People said the flames had leapt 20 feet before the watch arrived, and Dawn, proud, loud Dawn, had been trapped inside the display cage he'd designed to showcase his newest creation, the night sun candle. Dawn Varlan was my master's rival, and by all the little gods of hearth and home I'd envied him. His stall was always ringed by sweethearts holding hands, noblewomen testing perfumes, and children begging for dripping coils of coloured wax. He made candlelight look like magic, but no candle should burn as quickly and fiercely as the fire that killed him. I knew because I had spent the last 6 years apprenticed to the finest chandler in the city, Edric of the Copper Flame, and wax has limits. Even the hottest beeswax blend sputters and gutters before it roars. Someone had turned Dawn's art against him. An hour after the flames were doused, the market continued as if nothing had happened. Musicians struck up reels, cider sellers lifted steaming mugs, and the air filled with leaf smoke and roasted chestnuts. Yet the front of our stall was empty. Edric stood at the back, head bowed, fingering the edge of a linen cloth. "Master," I said. He lifted his eyes. At 60 he was still straight as a lamppost, but tonight he looked brittle. "We'll close," he murmured. "I'll not hawk candles while Dawn's body is carried to the house of ash." "Master, wait," I said. My own voice sounded distant, taut as a wick drawn too tight. "Something's wrong. Wax doesn't act like that. The watch will pass it off as drunken folly, but—" He sighed. "Leora, grief distorts judgment. Let the magistrates do their work. The watch captain doesn't know the difference between beeswax and beef tallow," I said. "And I do." A slow nod. "That's why I taught you." "Very well. Close up, take the shop keys and mind your steps. If you learn anything real, bring it to me before dawn." Those words were permission enough. I packed the remaining tapers, drew the shutters, and slipped into the stream of revellers, another dark-cloaked figure beneath pennants of crimson and gold. First, the ruins. A circle of canvas had been cleared, leaving only black-sooted paving stones and a smell that made the hairs on my arms rise. It wasn't charred honey or stearin or flax. It was sharper, metallic. I knelt. The stones were cold, but a faint shimmer lingered where the fire had been hottest. I scraped some residue onto a glass vial. Under the lantern it glowed greenish silver. Foxfire extract. I bit my lip. Foxfire, the alchemist's fancy name for distillate of glowmold, was used for watch lamps in deep mines. Mixed with wax, it produced a ghostly luminescence, beautiful but temperamental. Dawn must have woven it into his night sun candle. Alone it wouldn't cause an inferno, yet it made flames hungry, hotter. If someone fed that hunger with the right accelerant. A voice drifted behind me. "Poor bastard. Should have stuck to honest tallow, eh?" Coal-eyed Jaron, supplier of lamp oils and illicit chemical curiosities, lounged against a cider barrel. He spat a pumpkin seed and met my gaze. "Apprentice Leora, isn't it? Looking for trade salvage?" "Looking for why he died," I said. Jaron shrugged. "Flames play tricks." His grin showed 3 gold teeth. "If you're curious, Ask the Orchard Guild boys. Dawn bought 2 casks of Autumn's Breath from them last week. Stuff's volatile. Autumn's Breath was a scented oil pressed from first fall apples, spiced and steeped in rum. We used it sparingly, a few drops per pound of wax. 2 whole casks? Where did he keep them? In back of his stall, I'd wager. Might still be intact if the watch didn't smash 'em. I nodded, but Jaren's gaze stayed on me, too intent for comfort. I slid the vial into my sleeve and slipped away. The Orchard Guild kept a temporary warehouse beside the river during harvest, a clapboard shed lined with barrels, their staves dark from cider seepage. A lone lamp burned above the door. Inside, Maris Varlen, Dawn's younger sister and partner, was quarrelling with a guild quartermaster. Anguish had turned her voice hoarse. Signed for 2 casks, paid in full. Where are they? The quartermaster spread his hands. They never left our yard. Your brother cancelled the order same day. Cancelled? He told me they'd been delivered. She shoved the man's ledger away and turned. For an instant her eyes met mine. Then her composure shattered. She sagged against a barrel, shoulders shaking. I dismissed the quartermaster with a look. Softly I said, "Maris, I'm sorry." She wiped her cheeks. "You worked for Edric. Dawn envied your master, but he never wished him harm." She stared at the ledger. Why would he lie about the casks? "Maybe he didn't," I said. "May I see his signature?" She slid the book over. I squinted at the script. I'd seen Dawn sign purchase slips, big, looping D and V. This one was tighter, narrow, as if the pen had been held by someone whose hand shook. A forgery. Maris saw my expression. "You think someone ordered that oil in his name?" "Perhaps," I said. "Did Dawn quarrel with anyone lately?" "Only everyone." She tried a wan smile. "You know his tongue. Yesterday he accused the Lantern Guild of copying his wick braids." A pause. "And there was Cleve?" "Cleve?" "An alchemist's apprentice, came begging for Dawn's foxfire formula. Dawn told him to pound sand." I remembered a lank boy with sulphur stains under his nails, loitering around our shop 2 weeks ago, making offers for secret additives. Cleve. I thanked Maris and left, heart rattling like a tin mould. My next stop was Edric's back room, where we stored beeswax blocks, essential oils, and recipe ledgers. The shop shutters were barred, but I had the keys. I lit a taper, letting familiar scents, lavender, rosemary, honey, steady me. I laid the vial of residue on the bench, sprinkled a few grains into a crucible, and touched a flame beneath. It hissed, flared green, then blue-white. Too hot for foxfire alone. I added a drop of lamp oil. The flame climbed, spit sparks. Accelerant, yes, but what kind? I opened a tin of saltpeter and dusted a trace into the crucible. The fire shot upward, almost licking the rafters. I swore and doused it. Saltpeter-soaked wicks. Dawn had boasted of experimenting with them for brighter festival torches. Such wicks were stable when trimmed short, but if left long and paired with foxfire, someone ensured the perfect storm. But who? I heard a creak outside. The back door latch jiggled. I snuffed the taper and flattened against the wall. A silhouette slipped in. A spare figure wearing a dark cloak and carrying a small chest. Moonlight caught pale hair. Cleve. He set the chest on Edric's work table and pried it open. The hinges squealed. I smelled pitch and hot iron. "You've got nerve," I said, stepping forward. He whirled, eyes huge. "Leora, this isn't what is it then? Stealing? Sabotage?" He backed up, hands raised. "Listen, Jaren made me do it." "Made you do what?" A sob broke from him. Dawn laughed at me. I just wanted a partnership. Jaron said he'd fund my experiments if I got him Dawn's foxfire recipe, but Dawn wouldn't sell. So Jaron said we could scare him, ruin one night's sales with a little flair. He gave me the saltpeter wicks and told me to swap them in before the market opened. I swallowed bile. And the oil? I don't know about the oil. I never touched the barrels. I only replaced the wicks and poured a pinch of powdered copper into the foxfire jar to make green sparks. I swear, when the stall went up, I didn't know. He sank to his knees. The chest beside him contained a ledger, some vials, and a purse of silver. Payment. Where's Jaron now? His river warehouse, I think. He's loading a barge at second bell. I tied Cleve's wrists with lamp cord. You'll wait for the watch. Please, he whimpered. If Jaron sees the watch coming, he'll vanish. I thought of Dawn's screams as told by witnesses, of Maris's cracked voice. Fine, you'll come with me. Jaron's warehouse squatted on pilings above inky water. Its windows glowed dull orange from braziers within. We crept along the jetty. Cleve tripped over a coil of rope. I gripped his arm. Quiet, or I'll leave you for the eels. A narrow door hung ajar. Through the gap I saw crates, barrels, and Jaron directing 2 men hefting sacks. Phosphor dust twinkled in the air around him like malevolent stars. Careful with that, he barked. 1 spark and you'll light half the docks. Phosphor, the missing accelerant. Foxfire plus saltpeter wicks would flare, but phosphor dust would turn flare to furnace. I motioned Cleve back, then paused. If we fled for the watch, Jaron could be gone before they came. And any stray spark near those sacks might torch the whole riverfront. An idea as reckless as Dawn's showmanship formed in my head. How well can you bluff? I whispered. Cleve blinked. I pushed him towards the door. You're here to deliver Edric's foxfire recipe. I'm your hostage insurance. Go. His mouth opened, but no sound emerged. I squeezed his shoulder until he nodded. Inside, Jaron spun, his grin spread, sly and gap-toothed. Well, well, the errand boy and the candle girl. Cleve cleared his throat. I have the recipe. Edric's personal ledger, payment first. Jaron waved his men away. Show me. Cleve opened the leather folio I had filled moments before with blank parchment. Jaron leaned in. I stepped behind a stack of crates and knocked over a jar of lamp oil. Glass shattered. The workers shouted. Jaron's head snapped up. What? I hurled a fistful of phosphor dust into the brazier. Light erupted, brilliant, white, blinding. Jaron cursed. Cleve hit the floor. I grabbed an iron hook and slammed it into the winch lever holding the barge ropes. The lever jammed. Ropes snapped free. The barge drifted, knocking against pilings. Chaos, but not fire, yet. I swept my cloak through the oil, then flung it over the brazier, smothering the flames. Sparks died in greasy smoke. The workers fled. Jaron lunged at me, dagger flashing. I ducked, seized a bucket of brine used to quench pitch, and tossed it into his face. He sputtered, slipping on wet planks. Whistles shrilled outside, the harbour watch drawn by the flash. I planted my boot on Jaron's wrist, kicking the dagger away. Dawn Varlin is dead, I said. You'll answer. His lips peeled back. You can't prove a thing. I drew the vial from my pocket. Phosphor dust bearing your seal, foxfire residue in Dawn's ashes, saltpeter wicks purchased under your alias, Cleve's testimony, and the ledger in that chest, your payments. Misery flickered over his features, then resignation. The watch burst in, blades ready. Take him, I said. Dawn bled rose and gold over the chimneys, when I climbed the stairs to Master Edric's flat. My cloak smelled of smoke and brine. Cleve had been dragged off in irons, and Jaron had gone white at the magistrate's questions. Maris would have the truth, if not justice enough to mend her grief. Edric sat at the kitchen table, a single beeswax candle burning between his palms. He raised tired eyes. Leora. I sank into the opposite chair. It's done. Tell me. I told him everything. Foxfire, saltpeter, phosphor, Cleve's foolishness, Jaron's avarice, the warehouse fight. When my voice faltered, he reached across the table and squeezed my hand. Dawn's vanity played a part, he said at last, but he didn't deserve murder. No, I stared at the flame between us. Will the guilds change? Greed is old as soot, Edric said, but so is craft and courage. He placed a parcel before me, fine linen wrapping sealed with copper wax. Open it. Inside lay a chandler's silver stamp, a stylized candle flanked by laurel leaves, mark of a master. My breath caught. I petitioned months ago, he said. Tonight you proved the wisdom of it. But I broke into a warehouse, set off false. You sought the truth, he said. A master must guard her craft and her city alike. He smiled, weary pride softening his lined face. Will you accept? Tears blurred the candle's halo. Yes. He rose, fetched a second candle, plain, unscented tallow. Old tradition, he murmured. One light for the living, one for the dead. We set the tallow candle beside the beeswax and lit it. 2 flames burned, steady and sure, as the first dawn winds rattled the window. Outside, bells tolled for the harvest sun, another market day, another chance for shadows to lengthen and be cut by light. I watched the twin flames merge at their edges, and I promised myself that no matter how bright candlelight became, I would never forget it could burn.